Welcome. My name is Marie Vickles. I'm the Director of Education, and I would like to thank you for watching this conversation between PAMM curator Jennifer Inacio and artist Sandra Vivas. Jennifer and Sandra came together to discuss the exhibition My Body, My Rules, and the responding public program Performance 4 Ways, which featured Sandra's performance piece After Carmen. This series of conversations highlights the importance of research, multidisciplinary performance formats, and the diverse lived experiences of the artists and scholars that inspired them. The exhibition, My Body, My Rules, is a group exhibition that examines the mainstream portrayal of women confronting the stereotypes, violence, limitations, and ideals imposed on the disputed image of the female body. My Body, My Rules features women artists working across mediums that include painting, sculpture, photography, and video. The works in the show are unified by a strong commitment to contemporary discussions on gender, race, body politics, resilience, and self-representation amid today's social landscape. Let's watch.
Thank you, Sandra, for coming and being here, joining me in this conversation today. And of course, thank you so much for doing that amazing performance that we had here at the museum After Carmen. So if you can tell us a little bit about the performance and if you are interested to give me a brief introduction about your practice.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, and I feel so privileged to being able to work with an amazing team here at PAMM. So After Carmen, I use elements of that I have used before in previous performances. My practice is mostly performance-based, but those performances become sometimes painting, sometimes they stay drawing, and they have other ways of expression. In After Carmen, I used, first of all, I made an entrance with this big cape that I fabricated that is an homage to two Venezuelan artists, a man and a woman, Eugenio Espinosa and Gego. And Eugenio Espinosa's work, it's called Impenetrable, and it's kind of like a ironic take on the work of Jesus Soto, which is in the north entrance of the museum. So I was kind of trying to bring the context of the Perez Art Museum itself, of the artworks that are here, and to bring it literally with me, because that's part of also my formation. I grew up with these artworks around me in the city of Caracas. There are many places that have, Soto's, penetrables, that, artworks that you can penetrate. And I also loved, growing up, seeing the work of Eugenio Espinosa, which is exactly kind of like making an irony of these works. For me, also, this grid represents the kind of mindset that it's sometimes it's hard to get rid of, because we need this map, this grid to navigate, but at the same time it can be limiting. And that's why I also felt the need to incorporate something that was also born from a grid, which is the work of Gego, which is she called them drawings without paper, which is sculptures she made with 1 millimeter thick wire. And I made my Gego cape, of which I also leave behind during the performance. And it's the first time I incorporate those kind of theatrical, if you wish, elements, as well as whip from Dominica, from the Carnival practices, and also a mask. But the mask was inspired by the plague artifacts that the doctors use to protect themselves during the Middle Age in Europe, during the this big pandemic in the 1300s in Europe. So it's a multi-layer kind of pastiche in which I incorporate all the things like the handstand, the headstand, which is
and you see that in other performances.
Exactly. Yes, and for me, and also I incorporate the circle, which, which in many cultures is very ritualistic. It puts you in a kind of trance. It can have like so many interpretations, but to me, although it's I have my own connection to these elements that I bring to the artwork. To me, the idea is to create, triggers for the imagination using elements of, pop culture, if you wish. Carmen, I'm not, singing the whole opera. I'm just using the, most known aria of Habanera, which of course also has implications about the origin of this, wonderful city, and an homage also to the people that, have, were kind of like the pioneers in Miami, from Cuba.
And you brought up Carmen, right? This whole performance is after Carmen. That's the title of the performance. If you can talk maybe a little bit about the story behind that, the story of Carmen, right? How did you use that story within the work? Because the story has a lot of like passion, jealousy, her lover like having this jealousy, and then of course it ends in tragedy. So how do you adapt that into your performance? I heard you once talking about the circle of fire being this own cage, right? That maybe she created for herself, but yeah. So how are you using that story and maybe readapting it within your performance?
So I love the story of Carmen because this character represents freedom in the shape of a woman. In the actual story, she gets punished at the end. She dies at the end, killed by jealousy. But I wanted to grab that, mythical figure and bring it kind of to present tense. Yeah. And I, become Carmen. But I also wanted kind of to question those ideas about love. This area, Habanera talks about love. Love is like a rebel bird that nobody can grab or, domesticate. When you try to grab it, it flies away. When you're not waiting for it, it comes to you and, takes you. And I love this like, femme fatale kind of image, but at the same time, I'm aware too that it's illusion of how love should be, or we are brought up to believe it is, and in a way we fall in a game. Many in like daily life situations, doesn't have to be as dramatic as, but we fall into this like story of repeating a pattern of believing that, love is this thing that takes us, or we want to be, believe that we are in control of the other, this extreme passion relationships. And I wanted to show that in a way it's like this circle of fire that I create myself. So it's also a way of literally showing how we make, these relationships, and not just in a metaphorical sense, but in a realistic sense. We make this, we have these ideas about what love is without realizing that we ourselves have created the conditions, to be in this circle of fire.
Yeah. But then in the end,
I always had my extinguisher with me, and I love also the idea of using elements traditionally associated. Like, I like to play with cliches of, what is feminine, what is masculine. So a whip is considered, masculine. Of course, there are also all these fetish ideas around the whip as well. So I wanted to play with, with the whip, with what we associate. Also, for me, I love the idea of the cleansing aspect of it, in the townships of Africa, where this tradition is taken from. Like Dominica has a very rich culture and mostly comes from Africa. Most of the population is African. And in this town of Good Hope, there is a carnival band. And of course, the entire Caribbean, but of course, me in particular in Dominica, we mourn that we didn't have Carnival. So I wanted to use that element of the Black Devils, also called the Blackies, that use this whip that comes from the African tradition to cleanse, and thinking of the pandemic and kind of like becoming, in a way, kind of like a magician, priestess, doctor, reading the pandemic of the museum, of the grounds of the museum.
And how do you, like, within performance, use, like, how does it feel, or how do you approach using your body, as this tool, as this mechanism, that the central point, right? Going back to, the exhibition, right? My Body, My Rules. I didn't mention in the beginning, but what we had here a couple of 2 weekends ago were a set of performances, you along with other artists that are creating works that, in a way, dialogue with the exhibition that we have up now, right? My Body, My Rules. It's a group exhibition drawn primarily from PAMM's collection, looking at artists using the body, or looking at the female body, and how these cliches or stereotypes are imposed on this image, right? So there's actually an area at the exhibition right towards the end where there are a couple of photographs, and I'm always referring to this because that those photographs and those works for me were a way to think about the image, right? The female image within art history, and thinking about women using their own bodies as tools within performance art, and taking agency, right, of how we want our bodies to be represented, and taking control and writing this narrative. So so how do you go about, using the body as a tool to manifest these ideas, especially within performance too?
Like, one of the exciting things for me to be talking to you right now was to talk about the exhibit, which, of course, because I was in Dominica, I didn't have the chance to see from the beginning, but I love this very brief but powerful text that was, available. And what I saw at the beginning, and then when I corroborated and saw the show in person, I love about it that it's not didactic, number one, which is, for me, it's extremely important, because as much as I see myself as a feminist, the last thing I want to do is, come and slap you with my discourse of anti-macho culture. For me, it's more important to create, number one, like new archetypes, if you wish, to create new visions of women, and to be part in a way of your exhibit. For me, it was like a huge privilege, especially after seeing it in person and see the plurality of the works, and at the same time the continuum of using the body. Yes, but it's just so, how can I say it? It's still incredibly sad that the female body is not seen as a body. The female, when you're talking about your body, it's a politicized body just because it happens to be a female body. No, and of course it's a preoccupation that and it's something that I actively make people aware that I am conscious of this. It's not by chance that I choose a lace panty, versus being completely nude, not by chance of, where I place a bicycle light, inside my panty. Those are very conscious decisions that have to do, and also a way of like lowering, or I don't know, or exiting, if you wish, this over-sexualized and over-fetishization of the female body. A woman, using her body, it's narcissistic. So for me, the body, it's important, not just because we all have a body. And I was born with a birth defect, and I was not able to walk for a long time. Then I tried to do, I walked when I was 2 years old, and then I tried to do ballet for many, many years, and I was like really, really, really bad dancer. So a lot of my performances are also about this failure, if you wish, to do what you want to do with your body. So it's not, doing the headstand. It might be difficult, but it's not impossible for most. It's relatively easy. I'm not an acrobat. And part of the tension that I like to create in my performances also comes from this edge of the public not knowing whether I'm gonna succeed or not at doing these simple or relatively simple tasks.
So it's interesting to question ourselves, and how even we as women too might be influenced by this idea that society like kind of ingrains in us. Because going back to this moment there in the exhibition, where I selected works that at first there were a lot of there's some nudes, right? And I'm questioning, okay, how is it different, women portraying themselves, because women have often in art history been portrayed, as nudes, by the male gaze. So how is it different, women portraying themselves as nude is, just questioning, just having that dialogue on what is the female gaze, what is the male gaze ingrained in the female, that we're reliving that idea of objectifying what you just said, right? You're still looking at the female body as something so politicized or objectified or fetishized, instead of just, treating it as a body that, wants to have its own expression. So, how do you relate to that within your other performances too? Like beyond, what we saw here at the museum, there's some moments that were more like sexualized and sensualized, right? Have you used that in other performances too, and pushed those boundaries?
I have used very, very often. Like I like this like wink of my, flashing, even if it's for a very short time, do the to show my light and in my vagina, just like, you know, like this is the power, you know? And I've used it also to talk about other issues, like, for example, motherhood. I have an artwork called Reloj Lácteo, or Milky Clock, in which my body becomes the axe, and I'm grabbing one by one condensed milk cans with my feet and, you know, pouring it over my body. And of course, each time I go on the headstand, you know, again, I'm doing an acrobatic thing with, you know, being the inverted posture. And I also have the light. At the same time, I'm, you know, humming the Venezuelan anthem, which is the most sung lullaby. The music is the most sung lullaby. It has the same music. I have done it you know, I have one video work, Ausoma Puta Culta, which is from 1993, in which I says, I'm a scholar whore, you know, and I'm doing exercises, you know, in front of the camera, you know, kind of evading, like, you know, diverting the attention to something that is not considered traditionally erotic, you know, and kind of like at the beginning of the MTV era, when I started to produce video work. I've also you know, often use this, you know, I love to sing, you know, so I'm not a great singer, but I use, you know, songs from pop culture, whether they're arias, where there are anthems that for me, you know, are kind of archetypes of symbols that, you know, we unconsciously, you know, have them as sacred. And I like to, you know, desecrate in a way, and explore what, you know, other possibilities might be in it. And usually using like certain sense of humor as well, which is important.
Well, thank you so much, Sandra, for joining us in this conversation, and also for participating in the performance and being here with us.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I really admire your work as well at the My Body, My Rules exhibition. And it was a truly pleasure to work here at PAMM doing the performance.
Thank you.